for my paper, those are not available with the companies. Particularly in banking companies, I noticed that so many companies are not having these values which I took for this study. And the data analysis, I took the four models to know about these factors which are affecting the capital structure of the companies. Model 1, when dependent variable is debt to equity ratio, when dependent variable is debt to total assets ratio. Model 3 is when dependent variable is long term debt ratio, when dependent variable is short term debt ratio. And I found ratio, I found that predictors are the profitability is the predictability factor in that, and it is negatively impact. That means the profitability increases, the capital structure will decrease. And in model 2, the predictive factors are liquidity, profitability, log of sales. In model 3, tangibility, profitability, log of total assets and log of sales. And in model 4, the predictors are liquidity, tangibility, profitability.
So you can answer. You said factors affecting the capital structure. Then what are the source of these factors are selected? Source for selection of these factors. Number one. Second one is you said Nifty 50. It is also small to 50. And then these equities are available in Nifty 50 also. Then why did you choose money control as a source rather than Nifty 50? And you have around 6.
So actually, to compare the total assets value is very big. To compare total assets value with the tangibility, I choose a log.
Can we use a log function in multiple equations?
No sir, I use it in Excel sir.
But we have applied to
Yes,
multiple equations.
Yes sir.
So can I apply a log function in multiple equations?
No.
And how can I depend on your results? Then the regression itself does not allow multiple regression, but it's a linear regression. Because we have one types of regressions. This is a linear multiple regression. So linear regression and you are using log. And it's not a logistic also. Not even a logic. That one. And what is the total sample size?
Actually, I took 250 companies sir, but few companies don't have those factors which I have taken. Final nearly 180.
And one more thing that you have said that no research has been done in this way. Correct?
It's done, but it particularly belongs to some IT sector or few sectors where it's restricted, sir. And another thing is in foreign countries they done, sir, particularly in Chinese. But coming to India, no one is done total this basket of securities. Sir.
Can I say that no research has been done? Because on what basis you are saying no research has been done? According to your literature.
Yes, sir.
So can I say that what you have for your literature review collection, what are the sources that you have collected? Maybe Google Scholar.
Google Scholar and EBSCO host.
So I have numerous other databases also which I have not searched yet throughout the world. So it is limited to your literature review survey itself.
Yes, sir.
So can I say that which I have not searched overall? Can I say that it's a no research has been done? It's not. So minimal or very meager research or rare research. Means very few studies are observed in this context. So without studying the whole world context, that is not possible to the human being also. I cannot agree with this. But no research is not the right answer.
Rare research.
Very few studies.
What are the sectors we covered in this study? All sectors. 50 small to 50. So, what are the major sectors contribution in HSC? Only finance sector. Sure. We also have infrastructure, services, and we also have huge banking sector.
The services is contributing 52% of GDP. Then can alternate.
Once you revise. Any questions from students and other participants? banking practices of Karimnagar.
Very good afternoon to all respected dignitaries, organizers, and travel a long distance, the professors, scholars, students, and my dear audience. Before you, myself, Mohammad Abdullah, cleared my post-graduation from Bani Niketan PG College. I want to introduce you about those customer perceptions regarding Islamic banking practices which is going on in Karimnagar Unit. First of all, Islamic banking is also known as non-interest bank, which is based on the Sharia law. Sharia law is the combination of holy principles of Quran and Hadith which comply with. It is clear that whatever those things which comes under Islamic law is being followed by Sharia law. Under the sector of banking, we have two fundamental principles. First one is sharing of profit and loss, and the most important second one is prohibition of collection and payment of interest by lenders and investors. Dear friends, the topic will cover is the Apex Bank of India and the guidelines which are being introduced or being implemented by all the commercial and the cooperative banks. They follow the guidelines of RBI. Similarly, we can say that the Islamic banking will follow the laws which are guided by Sharia law. As already I have said that Sharia law, it contains those basic principles which are of the commercial banks. The next, for this study, we have drawn the perceptions of consumer practices which are being observed in Islamic banking Karimnagar branch. Next, the objective comes as to study the Islamic banking practices which are being followed in the Karimnagar branch and keeping in mind those demographical factors or those demographical profiles such as the gender, qualification, income, age, marital status, family, size and family type. Those demographical profile was observed to conduct all these studies. Moving forward, in methodology, we can say that two types of data were collected. The primary Islamic banking Karimnagar branch.
Dear participants, don't bother. Buses are coming from college. You can monthly go monthly if you want to go monthly. Godavarkani, Karimnagar. You can board the bus. We took permission from management. Don't worry. Type T is coming.
To use fast data in order to identify short or medium or long term trends and to use these patterns to protect the current position in the future. There are different types of time series and forecasting methods like moving averages, weighted moving averages, ARIMA, ARCH and GARCH. Among these, GARCH is the best method to use. And going on stock market indexes. There are different types of stock market indexes like Nifty 50, Nifty 100, Nifty 500 like that. The study for my article is only sectorial indices. There are 11 sectorial indices that I have chosen. And going to the literature review, due to time constraint, I have only 5 articles, 5 literature reviews, but I have done many more. In this first one is there any sectoral co-integration in Indonesia equity market? It is done by Davidson by Alien Teresa in 2005. In this article, they have done short and medium run co-integration relationship among sectors in Indonesia, and this study findings findings based on the empirical results of Johnson co-integration tests are there is no and there is no co-integration in the short run as a sector indices performances. They are caused by unique moving factors that affect all sectors differently. And second one is sectoral indices and how to forecast prices of sectoral indices by using moving averages and like simple moving averages and central moving averages, and to estimate accuracy of forecast made by moving averages by using tools like MAD, like mean average absolute deviation, and MSE mean squared deviation, and MAPE. And my dissertation is these are the 11 research. This is my sample selection. This is my sample selection. These are the 11 indices, 11 sectoral indices, and you can see that each indices consists of average and it is for short-term period. Now we just only calculate.
That's what I'm saying. You should give your conclusion whether it is better to buy which sector stock, whether to sell, because investors like they want to know which sector is doing good right now.
That's what our objective is. That's why we have selected different time periods to.
Every time we should also give the finding which sector is doing good and what is the progressive result of that sector. Okay, revise that progress.
Now I would like to invite Parthasarathy sir, who will attend the in cryptocurrency.
So good afternoon. First of all, happy Teachers Day to everybody, teachers present over here, and the students who I think they are there. So let me start like this. If there are some students here, students are there, na? So coming down 5 years, 10 years down the line, where would you invest your money? There are options like gold, equity. You can invest in real estate. As of now in India, we are not allowing it, but the Nobel Prize winner Robert Shiller himself, Yale University professor himself, has 2018 commented that cryptocurrencies, the common name we use for them is bitcoins, is the future. So this attracted me when Jack Ma was speaking on a TV interview saying that if in future retail industry has to move forward, the credit card system is not going to help, something like that. The next best currency which can be used for even the retail trade would be the cryptos. Now, as of now, there are roughly 2,234 cryptocurrencies in the world trading. But 2010, Bitcoin was the first currency that was introduced, which we call it as a digital currency. So now we have 3 asset classes. We have a financial asset class like equities, securities, debenture, bonds. We have a real asset class like gold, silver, land, etc. The third asset is the digital asset. Digital asset is called as a cryptocurrency. So this is where that attracted my attention. So when we put some time as a faculty to do some research, we have to see the longevity of this project. So I feel I can go ahead with this project for at least 1 or 2 articles. So that is the reason I have taken up this. And I am Parthasarathy from Sivasivana Institute of Management. So lack of time, the first slide already I told you, in 2010 Bitcoins were introduced. For a general awareness I am telling, in China there was a kidnap and that guy was asking to release that girl. Give me 1 Bitcoin, I will release this girl. So what is this 1 Bitcoin, how much it would cost? 1 Bitcoin. In USD, it is 10,000, as on today, if you are trading today, $10,687. Now convert that into rupees. So this is the popularity. Now Indian government did not allow. Now you can ask me, sir, if that is the case, how are you interested? By chance, if you are holding any foreign credit card and having access to the international credit card, you can trade on internet. So this is the history. Now I am skipping one of this slide to understand. Japan, Russia, they allow this to happen. India will, in the process, allow it to happen. So as a student of finance or as a student of any MPhil student want to go into it, there is one, see if you observe, what are the best websites we look into? Bloomberg, Reuters, volatility of the cryptocurrencies. So my objective of study is to understand the trends in the returns, which I have done using R software. Then I have done the volatility. One part is pending is I have to now model this using Garch. That is not yet done. So I have taken my sample size is 5 cryptocurrencies. If possible, you can see over there. I don't know whether the same slide is being visible over there or different. Okay. There is a slide called methodology. My friends, can you help me please? These are the 5 cryptocurrencies. This is a sample for my study. This is based on the market capitalization. BTC-USD stands for Bitcoin in USD dollars. And if you want to get the INR prices also, investing.com is giving you. If you want to do study in INR, how the fluctuations are in INR, you can do. But if you want to publish a good journal, you have to do it for a dollar based only. So 5 currencies I have taken: Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Ripple, and Bitcoin Cash. For a student of finance sitting here, if they want to understand what is the difference, Bitcoin is the first currency. Bitcoin Cash, if you see the 5th one, is the latest edition. Now, why did they introduce a newer edition? Because nobody will invest in a Bitcoin which is costing you $11,000. So Bitcoin Cash is for retail investors. 2017-18 is a very volatile year for this cryptocurrencies because abruptly many countries stopped trading in this, even India also. But if you see the rise again over there, the volume, the lower part is the volume, the upper part is the prices. The volumes are again increasing when we are coming to 2019 and the data is as of September 2nd. So very latest, you need not bother about the historical nature of the thing. So you can see that, and I have put 2 things in that slide, actually 3 things are there. First component is the price, second black line is the volume. Third, if you observe the return, log returns. Because of regulatory problems, the log returns are very much stabilized, but it will be going up. This is for ETH, this is for XRP, LTC, and this. The next question that would automatically come because lack of time is which currency should I be investing? If you go by the return format, as of now, see,
where we are, though it is not allowed, not illegal, I would say. It is not allowed by the government as of now in India to invest in bitcoins. It does not mean that we cannot do a research. Likewise, there are many prohibitions in India by the Indian government, but still the research is going on. One of the major issues that we can say that it means there are many social issues are there. One of the social issues we could say that the humanization issues, but we need a research so that we can find out the ways to overcome those things. Similarly, research is required whether the government in the future should allow it or not. To find out this also we need a research. So therefore research should be encouraged. So maybe it is depends on the findings as well as the future research, how the researchers or professionals are expecting and explaining these things, that whether how it will be beneficial to the Indian government or economy. If it is beneficial, definitely India will adopt. If it is not somehow, then definitely it will not. But someone should show that it is beneficial or not. For that, once again, we need a research. So therefore, it should be. So any kind of research should be encouraged. Thank you.
thank you sir.
Yeah, please.
I mean, because professor was speaking, I got one idea. I don't know how many of you have read the articles on shadow banking. Shadow banking is totally out of RBI purview. They say, I don't know what's happening over there. But believe me, there are papers. So now you cannot say because shadow banking, we don't know, I can't do this.
So there is shadow banking.
That's what.
Can you give me example of shadow banking?
Huh?
Can you give me any example of shadow banking?
Shadow banking is a parallel banking.
See, shadow banking. shadow companies are there.
That is shallow company, not shadow.
Shadow visible. Shadow banking.
Sir, this is shadow.
Shadow banking. Shadow banking. We never come across shadow banking. Shadow companies are there.
Okay.
Shadow companies are there. No shadow banking.
Sir, maybe.
I'm from banking industry. That's why I'm asking.
Sir, you are from banking industry. Shadow banking cannot be seen anywhere on the legal basis.
Shadow companies there. Shadow banking not there.
Okay, no problem, sir.
Nobody knows what is ATM, digitalization. In future, we may expect this cryptocurrency in India also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your critical review and critical point. Critical point and critically reviewed this article. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to call upon Deepti to have a presentation on employee work-life balance with respect to business management in 21st century. Please, ma'am.
Okay, today. Fine. I am Deepti Lankoti and I am working as an assistant professor in QIS College of Engineering and Technology in Ongole. So, I am a computer science graduate from Vignan University and then I have done my master's degree from Andhra University in 2015. Right now, my topic is employee work-life balance in 21st century. Okay? So before just we rushing to the topic, I'll just pose some questions in your mind so that by the end of the session, we will see whether they are going to be answered in the session or not. What is this work-life balance is all about? And why prominence, importance is given to work-life balance most probably in 21st century but not in 18th or 19th or 20th century. So I think you have got the questions, right? Now just pause for the questions and we'll move into the topic. Here is the first answer for the first educational institution. The chairperson is around 70 plus years of age. And next, principal and the secretary around 50 plus years of age. HODs, deans around 35 plus, 40 plus, right. And next, myself and my colleagues and seniors around 25-30 plus years of age. Almost 4 generations together working under the same roof called QIS College. So it is not the academic sector but in other sectors as well. There are 4 different generations working together. Now all of you choose your birth year and see for which generation you belong to. In my example, 70 plus, it is related to baby boomer age. Each and every generation is termed with a technical terminology. The first generation, baby boomers, who are so-called super seniors. And the next generation is Generation X or baby burst. They are the next generation. And the next 40 plus years of age, they are seniors, who are your seniors or our seniors. And myself and my colleagues, all of them belong to millennials. So the problem is millennials facing problem in work life. Work is different, personal life is different. Professional life, personal life. Nowadays, why? Professional life is entering into the personal life and personal life is entering into professional life. We'll go on further. Perfect balance is impossible. What is this? Perfect balance is impossible. Is it possible or not? Perfect work-life balance. Hopefully yes. Actually, it is not possible, but management is possible. Managing work and personal life is possible, but a perfect balance is not possible. If you see the first picture, picture work and life. The person is standing on the ball trying to balance himself. When the work is overloaded, the other hand raises up, he cannot stand still. When the life is overloaded, the parallel it mismatches. So he has to move on further to face challenges in life, also to grab opportunities in life. Without moving, he cannot stand stable. So for that, he needs some movement. So he has to move step by step further by balancing work on one hand and personal life on one hand, so that in his journey of life, he will enjoy challenges in life as well as achievements recovery at work as their own work. But nowadays, some role you give to the seniors or to the juniors, ourselves like 25 plus 30 years of age, they are seeing that whether is that role suitable to me or not. So choices have come. Nowadays, earlier the seniors used to take whatever the employer offers. But now employee he himself choosing his career choices, and so the work is automatically entering into personal life. Personal life disturbances or mental deviations are being carried over into the workplace. It was something that you care or you like is all related to passion. So understand, if you love your job, you don't find it as a hard work. But if you take it as a stress, you are not loving your job. So heartfully say if you are loving your job or not. If you love your job, even though it enters into your personal life, it's no matter, it's not a problematic at all, because you can balance well. As you love your job, you respect your job. And set clear boundaries, be positive and enthusiastic for listening so patiently. And any more questions that can add to my research, all the advices are welcome.
Really, it was a wonderful presentation. Actually, we would like to listen you, but the time is very short. That's why we are asking you to start. It was really excellent presentation. Thank you so much for your valuable suggestions for all the academicians. Because you know, everyday life we have so many problems in our career and family. How we have to balance our life. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepti ma'am. Really, you boosted up. The first question she asked whether you are enthusiastic or not. You made us enthusiastic by making the balancing of this program. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to call upon Dr. C.V. Ramakrishna sir to have a presentation on financial inclusion. Please, sir.
Before, this is my 6 months old profession, teaching profession. Prior to this, from Nagarjuna City. So in 2018 October, I took VRS, volunteer chairman. So Venkatesham also wrote this. So this is Mr. Venkatesham. This is my second August.
Good afternoon, Morinda. Respected dignitaries, employers, my colleagues and students and audience also. And first of all, happy Teachers Day. So now I am presenting here about the financial inclusion. Mr. Narendra Modi Garu, after electing as the Prime Minister, he had a lot of changes in India, just like I said, financial inclusion. By introducing he introduced Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana to develop to create the awareness about the banking sector with the village people, in the village people concept. And after that, we also realized that there are a lot of accounts opened and lot of transactions done with the village people. Still they may not aware about the bank, and they went to the bank and they made certain transactions by utilizing the concept developed by the central government, Prime Minister Narendra Modi Garu. And here Before that, I am here that Rangarajan, the farmer, he developed
Any queries? Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I would like to invite Dr. C.V. Ramakrishna, sir, to have a presentation on digital innovations in banking and financial services.
Friends, digital banking. Digital innovations in banking and financial sector. A digital bank represents a virtual process that includes online banking and beyond. In fact, this digital banking starts from ATM also, ATM and point of sale machines. Digital banking in technology has been introduced, this need has come in 1980s when bank bookkeeping, customer service and to increase digital banking and to remove corruption because government wants to eliminate the physical cash transactions. Hence 2014 onwards they have increased digital banking system. In conclusion, I would like to say that since 1980, Government of India is planning to make mechanization of all things into up to 2000 only we have started. After 2000 only we have started ATMs. And after that 2008 and 2010 period we have increased net banking NEFT transactions. And recently Government of India has introduced that there is no charges for RTGS NEFT because they want to boost the electronic payment system. And nowadays, if you see the small shops also, we have seen so many small, even mega payments also, non-cash transactions. Exactly, sir. So this is the aim of the government, not to use physical money. So in my personal opinion, that is the main reason we are not able to, the liquidity problem is coming in the country now. I think this is the main idea of the government maybe. So they want to increase more and more digital transactions to avoid totally. So thank you very much, friends.
Any queries, sir? Anyone, any queries? Yeah.
Yes.
As you said that to stop the corruption, digital banking has came. But when we see in the process of corruption, the person who is taking or to whom we are giving, that was visible. But now
Hacking is taking care of the weather, technical people from the government side, and corruption is something else. So we should not mingle these two things. Okay. Thank you.
Very much. I would like to call upon Shankaraya sir to have the presentation.
Good evening, dignitaries on the dais. Shankaraya, Assistant Professor of Commerce, Government Degree College, Manchiria. So my topic is impact of rural indebtedness on agriculture sector, the study. The Indian farmers borrows year after year, but is not in a position to clear the loans, either because the loans are larger or because his agriculture input is not large enough to pay off his debt. Therefore, the debt of the farmer goes on increasing, and